So again, my name's Andrew Phay. I work for the Whatcom Conservation District. I am the GIS analyst here at the Whatcom Conservation District. And I'm here to just give you a rundown of some of the new ArcGIS programs. Wow, I've got 39 people. I get a lot more people when I'm online in this format than I do actually at Wade. I get maybe 10 people in this kind of class at Wade. I'm going to be really sad when 10 people show up next year when we're actually at Sleeping Lady. Okay, there we go. Some of the content today. We're going to go over some of the products: Arcmap, Arcgis Pro, Arcgis Online, or AGOL, field maps, story maps, Survey 123, dashboards, Experience Builder, Drone to Map and Site Scan, and Insights in Living Atlas. And one thing I keep telling people to go to is my Esri training. We'll go over that a little bit too. Arcmap, most of you are probably familiar with this. It is the old version of their Esri's mapping software. We're at version 10.8.1, I believe. This may be the last version of Arcmap. Esri has not made it clear if they're going to make another one or not. So if you haven't started looking into ArcGIS Pro and learning that, you may want to try start doing that. If you do need to get Arcmap or ArcGIS Pro or licenses for ArcGIS Pro stuff, whatnot, I will show you the person to get contact through NRCS, or you can go to their box account, contact me, or I think it's Dave Weber, and his information will be up here soon. This is the quote from Esri. Until March, it's going to be supported until March 1st, 2026. Well, that means there's probably not going to be another version. And it says it there too. So they're slowly phasing it out. Whether they'll keep it there for a little bit while longer, I do not know. And probably nobody outside of Esri knows. Dave Brower is the person at NRCS if you want to get information from him. He'll send you to the NRCS box account, but it's a good idea just to let Dave know that you're using the software, saying, you know, these are the people that are using it, and just so NRCS, the Washington State Office of NRCS, knows who is using it, because they're supposed to report it to Esri through the contract with Esri and USDA. ArcGIS Pro is the new version. It's a replacement for Arcmap. It's up to 2.8, and I'm still using both, depending on what I'm doing. But this is essentially replacing Arcmap for many reasons. And one of them is, the best reason for me, is I can have multiple maps in one project. Yay! But it is quite a bit of a leap going from Arcmap to ArcGIS Pro. And there are trainings out there to give you the basics about what the differences are. But I would suggest firing this up and getting used to it and forcing yourself to use it. And it does take a little bit to get used to. Even I find myself, it's like, where the hell did they put this? Because I've been using Arcmap for 15 years, and I know where everything in Arcmap is. And Arc Pro has little intricacies that Arcmap did not, but it has a lot more features as well, and a lot better drawing capacity. And it's faster. Arcmap was created on an x86 platform with one processor in mind. This is back, it was created before multiprocessors were out there. And now most of your computers are at least quad core processors, at least. But Arcmap will only use one of those processors. So it's kind of antiquated in that respect. Arc Pro will use as many processes as it can. So that's why Arcmap is so slow on these machines. Even 20 years later, or 15, it came out in 2002, 2004, something like that. But yeah, it is definitely replacing Arcmap. Uses 64-bit multiprocessing. So for a lot of things, it's really fast, but I have found Arcmap to be fast in other certain processes that I do. Arcmap is actually faster than Arcgis Pro. And I've learned what those are, and I go back and forth between them. Another great thing about Arcgis Pro is it integrates with Arcgis Online really, really well. To the point where you can take a map that you've created on Arcgis Online and open it directly into Arcgis Pro. And it works. It's not completely seamless, but it's almost there. For most of the things that you will come across, it will work perfectly fine. You can open a map in Arcgis Pro from Arcgis Online and edit the data on it. You can open a feature data set that's on Arcgis Online and edit it in Arcgis Pro. And it is a lot easier to edit in there than it is to edit online or in Arcmap. And it has the ribbon menus at the top versus the old style menus. We're all used to ribbon menus at this point. As I said, it has multiple layouts and maps and 3D maps. You can do 3D directly in Arcgis Pro. Yeah, you do need an AGOL account. So if you do not have an AGOL account and you need one to run Arcgis Pro, or you want to set up an account on AGOL, please give me a call and I can set you up with one, or send me an email is probably a better bet, because I need your email address to set you up an account. And when I set you up that account, you'll get an invite to Esri Online, to Arcgis Online, and you'll get a invite to My Esri. And My Esri, at the end, I'll go over a little bit. That's where the training happens. There's lots and lots of training videos. I may be able to answer some questions at the end about Arcgis Pro, but this is kind of an overview about what's new out there and that kind of stuff. So we're not going to go in depth into Arcgis Pro. Arcgis Online. So when I set you up an account, this is my admin interface. So you'll notice this big, massive number up here, almost 15,000 credits. And mostly because of VSP, because everyone's putting all their VSP stuff up, we go through a lot of credits every month. So the commission has been kind enough to buy us a whole bunch of credits that should last the year. Last year it did not, because someone put in a 40 gigabyte file just to transfer it to someone to use it essentially like Dropbox, and they did not delete that file. So over the 6 or 7 months that it was up there, it went through 700 credits, which is about $700. So do not use Arcgis Online to send files back and forth, and keep your data sets size low if you can. If you're going to put up parcels, make sure you're not putting up all of the parcel data in the attribute table. Only put up what needs to be in that attribute table, because that will save space. If you're putting up a polygon layer, Well, you might not need as many. You could simplify that polygon layer and put in and do a smooth line or simplification of that polygon layer, because you may not need all of those vertices up in that data set. Yeah, you can share maps through ArcGIS Online with the public or with groups. Groups are kind of the security feature. So if you want to share your map with someone beside yourself, you create a group, you put that other person in there, and only the people in that group can see the data shared with that group. There is a new map viewer. If some of you have not been in a while, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to use the new map viewer versus the old one? Or I think they call it the classic. And it is made, it's a little bit better, runs a little bit better, easier to manage. So be aware that that's up there. And if you're going to build a new map, do it in that new map viewer, because eventually the old ones will probably go away in a few years. The web app builder, this is how you build apps. Now, some people get confused between apps and maps. An app is something you can bring up in any browser, whether it be mobile, desktop, tablet, whatever, and it will actually work correctly for that device. Whereas the map may not look good on mobile, it may not look good on everything. But to build a web app, you need a web map. Yeah, I know, very confusing. They could have used better terminology there. But those web apps are really easy to build and very nice to build sometimes too. And it's a better interface if you're sending this map out to the public. It's a better interface doing it with a web app than a web map. So if it's going out to the public and you're not just viewing it, you might want to put stuff into it. Use a web app to get it out to the public, because you can add in widgets and search bars and multiple fields and multiple tabs, different maps, all that kind of stuff. And along that same lines is Experience Builder. Experience Builder we'll go over here in a second. It's essentially taking over from the web app builder. You can still use web app builder, but it adds more into it. And it's a very nice little interface and building experience, just like web app, but you can add more stuff into it. With ArcGIS Online, you can collect data in the field with field maps. And you notice I used field maps, not collector. And I'll tell you that why in a second. And contact me if you need an account. Field maps, collecting data in the field. This is the new way to do it, because Collector, Tracker, and Explorer will be retired this December. So what that means is there will no longer be any updates for those applications. So if you have maps that are built for Collector, you will be able to get them in field maps still. And they work almost seamlessly for stuff you built for Collector, but you may not be able to get, no updates will be done after December. They're pushing field maps. It replaces all three of those things. And it is very nice. One of the great things I do like about field maps is, instead of building that app, or building that map, I should say, and then going to your device and figuring out, is it syncing what's happening, it actually gives you an interface online, which is right here, an interface of all your maps that you can use with field maps, and it gives you more information and settings that you can do online at your desktop before you take that map out in the field. So you can set your distance accuracy, you can set your GPS, you can create online, you can create content in here if you wanted to, add something to a map. and you essentially manage them all in here instead of trying to manage it on the device you're on. And then once you're on the device, you just have to download it and work with the data. And it looks, in most respects, it looks very much the same as Collector, but this is just the collecting window on my Samsung phone. But you can also just view maps. You don't have to collect stuff. That's where the tracker and the Explorer come in. You can add tracking in the management console. It is very nice doing all that kind of stuff. I've only gotten to use it once, just playing around with it, and it's a lot easier to do in there. Better setup than Collector, better organization, and it does have, when you're building forms, so if you're getting information out in the field and you have a whole bunch of different fields that you need, but some of them only need to be filled out if you answer one question one way versus another way. You can actually dynamically build that form to say, if you hit yes on this, these questions will show up. If you hit no, these other questions will show up. And you can do that in field maps. And you don't even need to go into creating it in Survey 123 or anything like that. You can do it in field maps directly so that the user out in the field has an easier time inputting their data. Dynamic questions, what I went over. One thing I don't like about field maps is if you have an older iPad and you cannot upgrade to iOS 15 or greater, you cannot use field maps. Field maps is only available on iOS 15 and greater. So like 9 out of the 11 iPads, 9 or 10 out of the 11 iPads I have here at the office cannot use field maps because we bought them 8, 9 years ago. So be aware of that. But the thing is, I can use it on my cell phone. And the Android has less issues than iOS. Yay, Android, bad Apple. But hopefully, if you're going to do this, you can use. You don't have to use the field maps for now. You can still use Collector for probably for a year or so. It will be retired. I don't know if they'll just completely remove it. I doubt it. But you can still use Collector on those older iPads. You won't get the functionality of field maps. Survey 123 has been updated a little bit. Last time I talked about it. This is more of, imagine SurveyMonkey filling out forms in the cloud. And it is very nice if you're just doing, like I'm going out collecting data points or lines and polygons now. You're just filling out a form that has a GPS location, essentially, a geo-referenced location. And it's a lot better than having to go into Collector or something like that. You can get the app on your cell phone or just go to the website and have lots of information and dynamic records or dynamic fields in there. And it's really, really robust in that way. And it works with polygons and polylines. You can build a Survey 123 online, or you can get a desktop app that gets much more advanced, much more advanced. And you can see the two bottom ones here. This one, the wildlife tracker we built, I built on the Collector app for your, I think it's Survey 123 Connect for your desktop. And what it does, it downloads the one you might have built online, downloads all that information, and creates an Excel document that it can use to build the actual application online. It seems kind of strange, but it gives you a lot, and I mean a lot of functionality and little intricate details. And it'll take that Excel file and republish it up online, and you have a really good survey up there. There we go. Okay, use Excel to build everything. And as long as your device has a browser, it will work. If you get into more of the intricate questions and stuff, you will need the app, the Survey123 app to run it, which will run on most devices. I think the wildlife tracker, we do that directly to the web, and we don't use the app because anybody can go in and put in a picture of a wildlife that they saw out in the county somewhere and give it a location and that kind of stuff. Yep. And then story maps. A lot of you probably are familiar with story maps. They're a great way of telling a story, essentially, getting information out, and you can scroll through the story and it just scrolls down and maps come up, YouTube videos come up, pictures, videos, graphs, that kind of stuff, links to outside, and people just scroll through it and things change on the map. And it's a really good way of doing it. Even if you're not doing a map in any way, shape, or form, story maps are a really nice way to show that information, get the information across to the viewer. Tell a story. Yep, and those are three of the ones I like. The first ones are water quality map, and we did this with, we helped with some of the maps in the background for this, but the WSDA manages that particular story map, and it just gives you a rundown about what they're doing in water quality and how we're doing how we're showing the result map. Another one is done by another conservation district. I think it's Grant, or no, it's not Grant. One of them, I can't remember. I should know that. But one of my favorite is the Glen Canyon, the place no one knew. This is actually one of the first ones Esri posted to show off their story map. And it's Glen Canyon is a canyon that was flooded back in the 70s because they put a dam in. And some researchers and enthusiasts went out with rafts in the 70s, little tiny, and they'll show you pictures of little tiny rubber rafts, and went around and took pictures and GPS locations on a map. They put locations later because they didn't have GPS units. And there's like old Indian sites, there's old oven sites, mining locations, all that kind of stuff is all underwater. And all of these points are different locations. You can scroll through the map and actually see all these things that are now underwater in these pictures. It was a nice introduction to story maps. Dashboards. Dashboards, I think everyone's familiar with dashboards, but it's just another way of showing your information. Here we have our water quality maps. Our water quality map showing all our recent stuff and a legend on the side. Latest results when I took this picture was 550,000. And then another legend, other layers in there, results in the last 5 days. It's just another way of showing your data. Let's see, and one that probably most of you are familiar with because it came out last February. I think they started it. This was started by Johns Hopkins in association with Esri, and this is our COVID dashboard that people used for many, many months. And this just, it was like, hey, I know that software. And this is a dashboard that millions of people around the world used. And it just showed the information people needed. Experience Builder brings together maps, story maps, and dashboards. Easy to build is rather correct in this. It's, you see these small little, let's do a pen. See these little dots right there? You can click and drag these and make them this window as big as you want. And it is incredibly easy to use. You do still have to have all the back-end data to put in here, but we created one that shows all of our watershed watchers reports. So if they find like trash bags on the side of the road or something needs picked up, they can go on to this I think, yeah, it's a Survey 123 app over here. And it's just, I just dropped the Survey 123 directly onto here, put it over here on the right-hand side, so they can actually fill out that Survey 123 while looking at the map, or go in there and say, hey, someone already reported this, and so on and so forth. And it is a drag and drop from the table of contents on the left-hand side. It is a really nice app to use. And if you're building anything new, I would suggest you build it into here, even instead of the web app builder. There we go. Drone to map and site scan. Two different things. Drone to map needs an AGOL account, obviously. Processing only, and only on the desktop. The issue is, and it does 2D and 3D. The issue is we don't have a license for this. It costs $1,400 a year to get a license for drone to map. If we had enough districts pitch in, or one of their grants would pay for it, we could actually share that license for everyone. And what this does is it takes all of the photos from a drone, and you can see all these little drones right here, drone photos. Each one of those is a photo, and it will go through and stitch all of these photos together to make a mosaic file, and it uses your desktop to do all the processing. And it'll actually do if there's enough photos, it'll actually do a 3D version of that photo as well. And I've done trial runs of it, and it is really nice. I actually used it for stitching together 1943 aerial photos that had already had a point for the center point of those photos, and it stitched together all 200 photos, and then I can geo-reference that mosaic photo even better. So it can be used for multiple things. $1,400 a year. SiteScan is a new product from Esri. This essentially is sort of like Drone Deploy. Whoops. It is an end-to-end cloud-based drone mapping software. So you can set up your entire flight path in SiteScan and send it to your drone, and then it'll go out and fly it. And then you can have the whole thing processed up online, not using your desktop, so you could process it online. I have yet to use this. I'm trying to get a price point back from Esri on that. So I don't know how much this costs, but I'm guessing it's a subscription again, and depending on how much you use it, that kind of thing, you'll have to pay for how much processing power you use, because all of that stitching is done on their servers instead of your own desktop. But it does it all online and gives you lots of stuff. But I also know Drone Deploy does the exact same thing. a little easier to use probably, but it's not an Esri product, and you can't directly take it into ArcGIS Pro and that kind of stuff. So it's their version of Drone Deploy, and was it Flight Command, and there's a couple other ones out there. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that's an option out there. Insight for Arcmap or ArcGIS is how to explain this. If you've got massive databases, like in the millions of points or data or something like that, Insights is a very good way to portray all of that data. It's kind of a data science kind of system. We had a license for a year and we barely used it because it wouldn't take the data that we had and manipulate it the way we wanted it. But that was 3 years ago, so it's probably been upgraded since then. If you do have really large data sets, you can throw them up on Arcgis Online and take them into here and do some really analytical stuff to them. That's what Insights was built for. Yeah, just want to let you know that's out there. Living Atlas. A lot of people don't even know this exists for some reason. I try to tell everyone every year, and it's out there. Living Atlas is essentially what other people or other companies, Esri, USGS, Department of Ecology, lots of different places, what they have put up online and shared out to everybody. So you can get soils. You can get soils in different classes and different symbology. As you can see up here, this USA Soil Farmland class, drainage classes, hydric classes. You can get wetlands directly from Living Atlas. You can get NAPE imagery. You don't have to download it from anywhere anymore. You can get it live from Esri, and you can actually get a version of the NAPE imagery that you can query out. Give me only 2017s, or give me only 2019s, or give me the false color NAPE imagery, or the Ndvi for 2017, and then take that 2017 and compare it to 2019s. You can get all that information out of Living Atlas. Just go up there and do a search, like what I have up at the top up here. You just need to use this little search tool, and it'll search all of first it'll search our organization, and then you have to turn off a little checkbox that says search outside of WACDS, and it will search all of Living Atlas, and you'll get all of this interesting data. So if you're looking for something that should be, it's like, hey, this was done by NRCS 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it should be out there, like soils. Well, go up to Living Atlas and see if it's up there. If you want current NAPE imagery, go up there and use it directly from Esri. They just host it all, and you can get to it as much as you want. The Ndvi is kind of fun to look at. That's vegetation versus non-vegetation. Yeah, get out there and play with it. A lot of the things that people will use it for is just aerial photography that goes back a long ways. And check your counties too. Some of them have started to put aerial photos that they've done up there. And then My Esri training. Each one of you should have a My Esri account. If you have an Arcgis Online account, you probably have My Esri account as well. I set them up together. Every once in a while, I'll forget to do a setting or something. So if you don't have it, let me know. You can go up here, and if you check the free and free with maintenance, you can get all the free stuff that you have access to. And you can see up there on the right, there's Getting Started with ArcGIS Pro. And another one lower left, Migrating to ArcGIS Pro from Arcmap. It's an hour and 3 minutes long, and it's free. There's tons of training up there, especially if you want to get a lowdown of how ArcGIS Pro works. You can go up there and get it. And some of these are also classes that you have to pay for. And if you do need to take those, there are ways of doing that. I've turned everyone's ability to purchase stuff on ArcGIS Online off. So if you do need it, let me know. I don't want people accidentally purchasing stuff with credits we don't have. But yes, please go up there and take the training. And if you like it, or if you don't like it, please let me know. I don't hear back from anyone that actually takes these training courses. I've taken a couple here and there over the years, and they're pretty good. Most of them are not specifically done for conservation districts, but it gives you a good rundown about what's available with stuff like ArcGIS Pro. And there's Arcmap, and there's Experience Builder and all that kind of stuff. Any questions?
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, just remind folks to please put questions in the questions box, or just raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly or share something else with anything that Andrew presented. Two things. One person said that the trainings are excellent. Thank you very much, Andrew. And another person, I think in regards to the accounts that you're mentioning in Arc, Megan said, I think I have an account, but doesn't need to be specifically opened with you.
Doesn't need to be specifically what?
Opened with you, started with you.
Yes, if you want. So you can create an ArcGIS Online account and without being in an organization, but that is a personal account. You will not be able to be added into groups. You will have a very limited number of things you can do with that account. By being added into our organization, you can be added to different groups. You can share things a lot easier, and you don't have a free account. You actually have a paid for account.
So you can have two accounts, in other words, is what you're saying.
If you wanted to, or if you wanted to move your personal account into our organization, we can do that as well. I believe we can do that.
All right, perfect. Thank you. That answered her question. I'm not seeing any other questions in the questions box at this point. Folks, feel free to add in a question into that questions box, or just raise your hand. I'm happy to unmute you. You can chat with Andrew directly.
Well, while we're waiting, I'm going to show you Experience Builder. And you just put in a legend down here. And yep. So it's essentially a drag and drop. Show base maps. And I even haven't played with this that much, but you can see, and then once you zoom in, those would change. And you can play with the styling, have it rotated. Let's rotate it. Whee! But there's a lot of configurability in this. And if you wanted to see the live view, that would be the live view. Or you can, yes, save changes. This would be the actual view on a browser, if I published it correctly. Save.
And Andrew, while you're clicking buttons, there was a question in regards to this. What software do you use to create story maps? Perhaps that's what you're showing. And do you have experience using Map Hub or recommended other interactive maps?
So to create a story map, up here in the bento menu box, we have, let's see, where's that? Story maps. But you can get to other things in here as well. Dashboards Classic, Living Atlas, Map Viewer Classic, Survey 1, 2, 3. We want story maps. You just go in here and start a story. And then title it test, and then start designing it. You can create it in multiple different ways. You can also use templates. And you can add lots of things to it. Let's see. I haven't been in here in a couple of years. Design. Tell your story. I want to add something. I'm going to add a map. And I'm just going to add that one because why not? And yeah, you just come, you do it. There's no application that you do a story map. You just do it in the browser essentially. And you can save all that information, and you can do searches, turn on legends, and so on and so forth, and place the map. And it's going to place the map, and I can scroll down and add maybe some text. Text here, and add another one. Let's throw in an image, and I can throw in images. So that's how you would do a story map. Do I have any story maps still? My favorites, my groups. Oh, look. Story friendly Mason. These aren't mine. But let's see. And that's a story map. Any other questions come in?
Nope, just a comment, someone just saying thank you very much, great presentations today, and folks appreciate having you as a resource with districts. So just wanted to pass that along. But we'll say if anyone wants a demonstration, Andrew does have a little bit more time of anything he did show. You want him to do a little bit more, go back to something he discussed and talk about another aspect of it, please put that in the chat box. I'm sure he'd be happy to do that for you.
And if you guys, if you have any questions that are GIS related, or how do we do this project kind of thing, feel free to give me a call, and I can run you through some what ifs and what the best way might be to do that particular project. Use me as a resource. If you're talking drones, I would suggest talk to Seth at Spokane.
Oh, we've got two questions for you here. When should you use a field map versus Survey 1, 2, 3?
So with field maps, I would suggest using those if I need backgrounds. If I'm going out to the field and I need a whole bunch of data sets in the background, like I need soils, I need farm plan fields, I need watersheds as a background to your map, that's when I would probably use fields instead of Survey 1, 2, 3. If I'm just going out with and doing, okay, I found a spotted frog right here, or there's a bunch of geese right here, I don't need data sets in the background there. So I can easily just take a point or a line or a polygon, whatever, and store that information. If you're doing lots of different editing to different data sets, like you have a point layer and a line layer and a polygon layer, if you're doing a lot of stuff, you definitely want to use field maps. If you're editing polygons, like, oh, this polygon needs to be a little bit bigger because I'm out in the field and it needs to incorporate this, then you want to use field maps. Or if you're walking a perimeter of, let's say, a wetland, and you want to use your GPS while you're walking that perimeter, you want to use field maps. I'd like to say if you're just doing like a survey kind of thing, like Survey Monkey or something like that, and it just needs a little point location or maybe a line or a small little polygon, use Survey 123. It's a lot easier. Use Survey 123 if you're going with the public as well. If you're sending this out to the public and you want them to fill out the survey, use Survey 123. You don't want to try to have the public editing data sets on your fields maps.
Yeah, a great example of that, Andrew, is our livestock survey map that we created, where we do, it's like a great citizen science tool when you're using Survey 123, that you have folks input a location and some information and photos with that, and then it loads into Survey 123. It's a really great resource for citizen science.
Yep. Over on the right-hand side is a Survey 123 survey. And this is our Watershed Watchers report, and they fill it out, and you can do this on a browser on your mobile device and upload a photo and so on and so forth. So
can Survey 123 connect to an already made GIS database?
Connect. I don't believe it can. So that way you would definitely need to use fields. Because of the way it's set up, you have to create it from scratch, but you could set it up to copy information that from one data set to another if you wanted to. It's not easy, and it probably would be very difficult to do, but you could do that. So like Survey 123 gets a bunch of information, and then once you get in, you can copy that information over in some way or another. I think you can automate it as well.
Great. And how does field maps compare to the accessibility and ease of using Avenza?
So Avenza uses PDF georeferenced maps. If I was to go out, get a map of, let's say, this farm plan map, and go out to that farmer's field, I'm going to do a small little survey of that farm and say, these things are here. Great, it's great. Now, if you wanted to do that for the entire county, a Venza map is not something you want to try that on. Could you do it? Yes. We would go back to the Pinto in an F1 car race. Not a good idea. They're used for different things. Like we use one of the people in our office uses Touch GIS, which used to be GIS Pro for the iPad, because she goes out and does site surveys, and it's just one site. It's not the entire county. So for one site, you could use Avenza Maps or Touch GIS. But if you're dealing with the entire county, not a good idea to do Avenza Maps. If you need to do a bunch of editing and you want to seamlessly bring that up into ArcGIS Pro when you're back in the office, you wouldn't have to do anything besides bring in that from Arcgis Online. You could literally, if someone was out in the field, you could literally see that as soon as they save their information to the, they synchronize it from out in the field over cell networks. Versus Avenza map, you got to export that, bring it in, and export it as I think you can do a KML or something like that from Avenza. It's been a while since I've played with the program, but you can't, there's no integration to make it easy and efficient. But you can still use Avenza maps for a lot of things. Did that make sense?
I think so. Let's see. Can you open an old Arcmap desktop file in the new ArcGIS Pro?
Yes, you can. You can do that. It's it comes across a little funky, but you can open it. But you cannot, if you open that and save it in ArcGIS Pro, you can't open it back up in Arcmap. Where is it at? Let's just open a map. Test. Desktop. And I believe it's like I haven't done this in a long time, so let's see. Open. There's an import somewhere in here.
And while you're working that out, Andrew. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Was there another question that came up?
There was a question someone was asking, Deanna was asking, will you be doing any GIS trainings or webinars for district employees? And funny enough, Andrew and I with the CTD were just talking about this the other day. I think COVID has clearly been a little bit of a challenge for doing a small group meaningful GIS training, particularly when I know it's easier or easiest for doing, let's say, an Arcmap training for Andrew to be in a physical space with folks, everyone have their own computer and he can see what's going on and help you. So as the COVID restrictions ease, as we're able to be in a functional space together in small groups, we are looking forward to giving more of, especially ArcGIS Pro. I know that's a place folks really need to go to move that direction and have a hosting of those, hopefully maybe next spring or in that time frame. However, as far as webinars go, Wade was a great space to give a handful of those. But if there are topics you would like to see provided in a more of a webinar or web-based training that we could do sooner than later for you, please put those into the questions box. What would be functional webinar-based technology or GIS functions that you would like to see presented in a longer time frame? I know additionally, Andrew did mention there are a lot of great existing GIS webinars out there already for you, and the CTD has a number of those on our website. I'll put that link in the chat box for you so that you can find some of those. But Andrew, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit about what might be some functional webinars, or if it's more about let's just wait till we can create those in-person events again.
Yeah, I think the in-person is probably the way to go, because of if I did a webinar, it'd be a lot of trying to deal with the technical issues of other people's desktops while we're doing the little tutorials. And that's not very nice to do when you're, 300 miles away. So I think if we wanted to do some like very specific things, like georeferencing in Arcmap, or now we have a video up, georeferencing in an image in Arcmap. And it's a short tutorial in how to georeference an image in Arcmap. I did this, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. I can do some tutorials like that. And they're just essentially YouTube videos. And we could do something like that. If it's a very specific topic that you send Nicole, I can create short videos like that. But doing ArcGIS over virtually is not an easy thing to do because there's always issues. And when I'm personally in, if we're all in person, I can just walk behind the person and say, click that, click that, click that. Whereas they would have to learn how to share the screen, and then the next person would have to share the screen. And yeah, so that's probably, we're going to go to more in-person, wait for the in-person trainings. So we did, that was an import right here of a Arcmap project, and it came in really well. I haven't done it since like version 1, ArcGIS Pro 1.2 or 1.3. So it's, they've actually done a really good job. So yeah, you can import it. You just can't save it back to Arcmap. Any other questions?
No, we had a great idea for a webinar though, that you and I can work on a little bit. So, a webinar about programs that people are using for both tablets and iPads for site visits. I know, comment was, I feel like there are some cool programs out there. I will side note and says, yes, they are. This might be both Esri and some of the others that Andrew mentioned, some of the GIS Pro and GIS Touch and some others. And that might be a pretty functional webinar that we could put together.
I think the simplest version of all that was going onto Google Earth, taking a screenshot of Google Earth and taking it up into a drawing program and just literally drawing on it with a drawing program. And that works as well. You don't have to learn many programs, and it's just drawing on an iPad. So yeah, we could do a training like that.
That actually works very quickly and wonderfully out in the field, if you can see your screen. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're at the 3 o'clock mark. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So I definitely want to say thank you, Andrew, very much for presenting today, for being here throughout this afternoon, all these great presentations, and sharing a lot of great content for everybody. So thank you kindly for that.